What is happening, guys, and welcome back to Top 10 Nerds. We are back with 10 more villains that are too powerful for the DCEU. We're on to part 3. You click this, you already know why you're here. Maybe you just watched part 1 and 2. Maybe you're gonna watch them next. Freestyle, it's all good, doesn't really matter. I'm Taylor McWaters. Let's keep this villain train going. Kicking off the list at number 10. Silver Banshee. First appearing in Action Comics 595, and in usual comic book fashion, she's immediately catcalled by some gross dudes. She literally looks like a demon, and the guy in the middle is like, tall broads, I love them. She proceeds to choke the life out of him because she has this fancy ability where one touch is all it takes to kill you. Neat. Heads up 7-Up would be an extreme sport with Siobhan. So she keeps on walking, she continues to a bookstore, of course killing another dude by, palming his head for a hot second. People run out of the store and they're talking about her voice, how it's the weirdest sound that they've ever heard. See, it's not her touch that kills, it's her voice. See, in IMAX, this would just be a treat. Just a woman screaming into the camera for 4 hours. I'll take it, debit. She's not to be messed with. She straight up killed Superman in her first comic book appearance. This is why you try and avoid curses when you're a child, or else you turn into a Silver Banshee and then in turn you have no friends, which is no fun. Number 9. Knockout. First appearing in comics with Superboy Volume 4, Knockout was a dancer working at a club called the Boom Boom Room. It's clear right off the bat that she possesses super strength. But she was having fun at this club. She saw Superboy on TV and thought that he was a little cutie. In fact, she actually doesn't believe that Superboy has ever met a girl like her in his life. And she's probably right. She fought Superboy a bit because she was into it, but later on she was much more of a threat when she joined the Suicide Squad for missions against the crime cartel Silicon Dragons. Once issue 2 rolls around, flirting turns into something pretty serious. She's fighting Superboy and she says that she's glad that she lives here now. Here, so where did she used to live? Well, she used to live in Apocalypse. Fun fact, she was also one of Granny Goodness's female Furies, but after Big Barda left with Mr. Miracle, she too decided that she wanted out. And she was punished for this, of course, so she got chained up to the walls of the fire pits, but eventually she broke free. The second she broke free, she leaped into the fire, and then she was transported via boom tube to Hawaii. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, because it really does help us out quite a bit. And also, we're on to part 3, so if you want to keep seeing more of these, keep hitting that thumbs up, then we know what to do. You're the best. Now back to this list. Number 8. Ultra HUMANITE. Superman's first recurring nemesis during the 40s, and yes, I'm even talking before Lex Luthor. Buckle up. This genius made his first appearance in Action Comics 13 way back in 1939. His real name wasn't known at first, Mr. Mysterious Man, but this man was gifted with one of the greatest criminal minds ever. He even developed low-level telepathy. He was a hard thinker, but his physical body couldn't keep up, and he quickly became old and withered, so he got other people to do his deeds. That was him in the old days. Now, Ultra HUMANITE in Power Girl Volume 2 is much different. Here his name is Gerard Shugel, same scientific origin, same failing body, yada yada. But if it wasn't obvious, this time around he experimented with some animals in his origin, and he moved his powerful brain into a massive white gorilla's body. We have Gorilla Grodd in the CW verse, so maybe we'll get a mighty gorilla genius in the DCEU. Sounds terrifying, never say never. Number 7. Solomon Grundy. Killed in 1895 and then tossed into a swamp. Rough. Cyrus Gold was gone for 50 years before he came back to life. We're talking zombies now, let's do it. He made his first appearance in All American Comics issue 61. Cyrus was having an affair at the time and met up with Rachel, the other girl, to talk about what they're going to do now that she's pregnant. So Rachel wanted money in order to keep quiet, and Cyrus wasn't on board. So Rachel's friend stepped out of the bushes, hit Solomon on the head, and he fell into Slaughter Swamp. Great name for a swamp, where he would then lay dead for 50 years. Over time, Gold's body started to mix with the sour vegetation of the, Slaughter Swamp, so he was just churning and turning into a zombie. He came back as this zombie beast with no recollection of his past life, so when he stumbles across a camp, the only thing he can remember when asked his name was that he was born on a Monday. Oddly specific, but we're here for it. The other guy who asked his name mentions the nursery rhyme Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, could it be? And it rhymes, therefore it stays. Number 6. Emerald Empress. Making its first appearance in Adventure Comics 352, the Emerald Eye of Ekron is an extremely powerful weapon. Right off the bat, I gotta talk about this. It's one of the best to ever exist in the universe. It's similar to the Green Lantern Power Ring, so when Saria gets a hold of it, trouble ensues. Originally from the planet Vengar, the Emerald Empress was the most wanted female criminal in the history of the universe. Which, put that on her resume, that's a pretty big achievement. Her home world was the site of the long-dead Ekron civilization, whose secrets were supposedly lost, all for the Emerald Eye of Ekron, of course. The eye will do whatever Saria wants it to, and it follows her around and gives her the ability to fly and hang out in space safely. The eye fixes itself after it breaks, so don't think about hitting it with a big hammer and then calling it a day. The eye has taken down Superboy before, and if we don't have a Green Lantern in the DCEU yet, I think it might be too soon for the Emerald Empress to start eyeballing the League, perhaps. Number 5. Poison Ivy. Bridget Regan has recently been cast as Poison Ivy and Batwoman on the CW, so perhaps she could join the DCEU soon as well. Fingers crossed on that one. When it comes to powerful villains, Pamela Isley packs a mean green punch. She made her first appearance in the pages of Batman back in issue 181. Now she began her days as an only child to a wealthy family, hot start already, but by the time she reached college, she was studying botany. She eventually fell in love with one of her professors, Mark Legrand, and one day she went so far to steal some special herbs from a museum in order to help him with an experiment. But of course, Mark was the worst guy in existence and used that herb to poison Pamela. She of course became immune to all diseases and toxins after this. Those were her original origins. Now her post-crisis origins were even darker. Can you imagine? That professor this time around was Jason Woodrow, later known as the Floronic Man, made Pamela a test subject for experiments. So straight up torture in her origins. This made her even darker once she did get her abilities, and this time around she hated men as well. So she would seduce them with her powers and make them do the crimes. She once made her boyfriend grow fungi in his lungs while he was driving, and I couldn't think of a worse way to go. Fungi? I'm gonna throw up. Number 4. Killer Frost. Crystal Frost, the OG version, made her first appearance back in Firestorm issue 3. She was a student at Hudson University who fell in love with one of her professors, only he was married, so he wasn't really interested. Crystal, after this, was upset. She was rejected, and now she wants to start hating every dude on the planet as well. Later on, she was a scientist working in the Arctic, where she again was reunited with that same professor. Then she accidentally got locked inside a thermofrost chamber, and then in comic book fashion got the ability to project waves of freezing cold air. Cool. Frozone, but with attitude. We love it. Her first goal was to take out that professor, but he was one half of the superhero Firestorm. So she was beat at first, but once she met up with the secret society of supervillains, she was able to go head to head with the Justice League. Louise Lincoln's version of Killer Frost was in Batman Assault on Arkham, and a good amount of those Suicide Squad members are now in the DCEU, so hopefully we see her soon. It could happen. She's next in line. Number 3. Barbatos. Also referred to as the Bat God, heyo, this epic force resides in the dark multiverse. Now we're getting more into the big guys, I guess. So the World Forger was set to watch over the vast universes, and while some of them held up in their own ways, there are some worlds that just were naturally unstable. So what do you do next? You get a giant stick and then poke them and push them out of the universe? No, of course not. You send a dragon to destroy it. That way the energy can then return to said forge. Not a bad gig. Now sometimes you like your job a little bit too much, you know, destroying planets and all, and this was the case for said Bat God. He ended up killing his master, and that was just the kickoff. He then had a real taste for destruction, and then he corrupted the Forge of Worlds. So now with the Bat God not destroying these worlds and sending that energy back sometimes, these worlds would end up becoming part of the Dark Universe. His journey begins with Dark Days the Casting issue 1, and it's mind-bending. Go check it out. Number 2. Cyborg Superman. Hank Henshaw made his first appearance in Adventures of Superman issue 465. He was a scientist, astronaut, team leader of the Excalibur crew. He was joined on this LexCorp space mission by his wife and 2 others. Now they hit some cosmic radiation, and in turn their shuttle crashed. 2 of the passengers' bodies turned into cosmic radiation, then the other turned into a gravel spaceship part anomaly, which I gotta say, one gets cosmic powers, the other turns into a bunk bed Ben Grimm. That's not fair at all. Hank's wife Terry was one of the 4 hit with the cosmic radiation, but she seemed fine afterwards for a little bit. That's important. Hank's hair also only turned white, so they were both lucky, all things considered. The crew then went to Metropolis to use the LexCorp facilities and hopefully fix their friend and crewmate's cosmic problem. The team ended up clashing with Superman. They were all decaying rapidly, everybody's scared, so of course they're gonna freak out a little bit. Steven flew into the sun. He felt attracted to its powers and then flew into his own death, like a moth. All that cosmic stuff, he was like, and then he just disappeared. Hank manages to tip Superman off right before he decays, so they were only able to save Terry. Jim didn't want to live as a space shuttle rock cluster anymore, so he walked into a MRI scanner, just ended his own life. Really tragic stuff. Terry was now the only survivor of this cosmic nightmare, but in Adventures of Superman issue 468, it was revealed Hank lived through iCloud. Basically, he transferred his consciousness to LexCorp's mainframe, and then he took over NASA's equipment and beamed his mind into the birthing matrix, the pod that carried Superman from Krypton to Earth. So now he was able to travel the cosmos and just learn about local life forms and their history. He eventually came to the conclusion that Superman was in fact evil and he needed to be stopped. After Superman died battling Doomsday, Hank claimed to be Superman Reborn, and of course people bought it, because look at him. This is why you back your phone up, people, in case you become an astronaut and your best friend turns into a ball of space junk. You don't want that happening. And finally, number 1, Mr. MXYZPTLK. This man of mystery made his first dazzling appearance in Superman Volume 2, Issue 11. At first sight, he seems like an ordinary man with an excellent beard and jawline. He's in the office with Lois and Clark, he's the new guy, and right as Lois and Clark are about to leave and go for their lunch date, this random dude starts to rub Lois's feet. Normal office behavior, sure, and then even weirder, Lois bails on Clark. Now she wants to go to lunch with Foot Rub Ronnie. So they go to lunch and they come back 4 hours later, and at this point Lois still doesn't know anything about this man somehow. She's oblivious also to a guerrilla attack that's taking place behind her. So she's in a daze, something is afoot. And then he turns Lois into a mannequin. So what's happening right now? Who is this guy? This man is in fact not a hunk, he's actually an imp from the 5th dimension. Close enough. His real name doesn't even translate into Earth's languages, but we collectively pronounce it as Mr. MXYZPTLK. He can manipulate anything and everything. He's nigh omnipotent and he's into feet. I think this guy is way too much for the DCEU in any way. Guys, those were 10 more villains that kick ass. I don't think the DCEU is ready for these ones, but never say never. Thanks so much for joining us on a part 3. And like I said, if a part 4 is in your desires, hit that thumbs up, show some love, and let us know. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you next time on Top 10 Nerd. See ya.